me? Are you ready? So as many of you know, Pamela Cooper was a really important part of MSH in the founding, establishment, and the day-to-day, my understanding. So we come together to remember her. The alumni started an initiative a couple of weeks ago, and they're all getting together in various places around the world to commemorate her life this weekend. But we do it together as a community during the week at school. And at the end of this, we're going to take a picture with a white candle, as are the alumni groups that are meeting, and we'll send it to Sarah Sternglass, who's assembling a book to give to Pamela's family. So we invited some people here who were close to Pamela, who would like to say a few words. So Dr. Parker would like to start.
Thank you. Thanks to the students and alumni that organized this important meeting. Look, it's very hard to know what the right thing to say is here. We all know how we feel. Before I go on, just to announce that both Carmi Margolis and Jakob Henkin, who wanted to be here, apologize for out of the country. I mean, they're really the people that should make this, to give the words that I'm giving, because they worked with Pamela for many, many years. They opened a school with her, and so they know her right from time zero. And I knew Pam from when I took over the school 3 years ago, and I know her well enough to speak now, but it would have been nicer if the people who were with her from time zero could say a few words, but they apologized and they sent their best regards and wish they could be here. You know, when you look at a picture like this, I'm going to speak as a person and as a friend and as a doctor, and I'll start as a doctor. You know, we deal with death. Our patients die. And this is not something that's easy for us. And you'll see, you young doctors, it's just not easy. And it doesn't really get much easier as time goes on, and you have to look after many patients and they die. But one of the most terrible deaths, in my view, is this business of sudden death, where suddenly someone's with you, especially for the family and friends and people with whom you work. Someone's with you, and 1 second later, they're gone. And it's terrible for all the reasons that you could imagine. Administrative and love and friendship. But it's terrible because the worst thing is you could never say goodbye to the person. You could never talk to them. You suddenly say, oh, I wish I had said this, or wish I had said that. Or in worse situations, you say, I wish I hadn't said this, that, or the other. The really wise people I know, such as Professor Glick and other people, know that it's important every day to talk to people as if you're never going to talk to them again. Not when I talk to Leora, say, oh, I'll never see her again. But in other words, don't fight and don't get into arguments over shtiot, over silly things with your family, with your friends, with your colleagues, because what if, and here we have a perfect example, what if the person disappeared in a flash as Pam did? Now fortunately, I don't have any regrets about how my relationship with Pam. We got along really well. I have enormous respect for her. And I don't know if Mike wants to say something, but Pam is the Mike on the other side of the ocean. And she did a really wonderful job, and we could always depend on her. She was diligent, and she was honest, and she had wonderful people skills and a very high EQ and a high IQ. And she also had a degree in Middle East studies, and she spoke Arabic, so she was just interested to be part of this school, and she identified very strongly with the school. You could always call her, you know, and I did, emails on Saturday night and Sunday morning when supposedly, you know, she's having a weekend. But she would answer emails and pick up the phone. She was strongly identified with the school. And when we lost her, the first person that told me this was Richard Deckelbaum, who called me. And I was actually having a party at my home. It was a Saturday night for my daughter, who just had a baby, and we had a whole bunch of people over. It was like a happy event. And Richard called me. I saw him on the cell phone, and I kept like looking and kept pushing close, like, you know, it'll wait. Whatever Richard Deckelbaum's calling me for Saturday night, it may be important, but it can, you know, it can wait an hour till the party's over. But as the party was going on, the home phone rang, and my wife went to, and I was giving a speech or singing a song or what, and she went like this to me. And my wife's a pretty calm and cool person, so she did that, and it was the middle of the party. I knew I'd take the phone. So I went to another room and Richard told me the terrible news. So, you know, it's true that no one is indispensable. And we know that presidents get, you know, resign and people take new jobs and people leave. But if ever there was someone who was nearly indispensable, I would have to say it was Pam. Fortunately, she ran a very good team. And so the people around her, especially Sarah, who's taken over for her, didn't know what Pam knew, but they knew enough that the place didn't fall apart on her death, but it was a great, great, great blow. So really, I'm so sorry. And I also had the good fortune of having to go to New York just a few days after she died. I planned it obviously a long time before, so I was in New York and met with the staff on the New York side just a few days after she died, so I was able to share their grief and share their concern and comfort them and be comforted, because I was made pretty miserable by this. It's not just someone you work with, but someone I liked and respected. So it's, you know, you lose a friend suddenly, you lose a close colleague suddenly. It's very difficult. Brings me back to the beginning of what I want to say, and then I'll stop, and that is the business of sudden death. And, you know, we doctors have to learn, and it's written in the books, and you'll hear us say it, and we have to learn to accept death, and we have to not fight against it all the time. But my goodness, when it happens, it's someone that you like and respect. It's very, very hard to swallow that. So I really miss her a lot as a person, as a friend, and as someone that I worked with and respected, and I know our team respected her enormously. Thank you for organizing this and letting me speak. Mike, do you want to say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then we'll open up to anybody else who wants to say anything.
I don't think I've ever spoken to something like this before about a colleague that is so valued to me. I'm a little bit lost for words, except to say that when things like this happen, I think you can only really relate to it at a personal level. So I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal experiences, what happened around the time and since then. Pamela died, I think, the day after the ceasefire was announced. I myself had planned 6 months before to travel to see my father in Scotland, and then the war broke out, and it was a question as to whether I was going to go to Scotland or not. And then suddenly the ceasefire came at 12 o'clock at night, and I flew out to Scotland at 5 o'clock that afternoon, thinking what a relief I've got away from all the problems of the Middle East, and also having to deal with the anxiety of the students. I thought I was going to Scotland for a break, and then I was at my brother's house, and I had a telephone that doesn't have 3G over in Britain, but I happened to be connected to his wireless internet, and as I left his house I went onto my email, and I was sitting in my car still connected to the email. It was about 11 o'clock at night, it was about -6 degrees outside. I was sitting there with my gloves and my hat, ready to start the car, and I look at this email, and I just couldn't understand what I was reading. It was about the death of Pamela, and I just looked at it, and I really couldn't focus. I couldn't understand what I was reading. I think I sat there for about 15 minutes, in the dark, in the cold, trying to understand what I was reading. I was in Scotland for a week. It didn't leave my mind for a moment during that time. Pamela and I worked very, very closely together. In fact, I'll even let you into a secret. Those of you, many of you have probably seen the British TV series Yes Minister, in which you've got the politicians that all believe that they're running things, and in the background, the bureaucrats are actually the ones that are doing the work and making it happen. Well, Pamela and I were the bureaucrats in the background. We used to have a lot of secret meetings all the time through Skype to make sure that we were keeping all the politicians and everybody else in order. My colleagues here aren't allowed to hear this, but that's basically what would happen. Pamela and I just made sure that things were running smoothly, that everybody was connected to what they should be connected to. And I think we worked very, very well in doing that. And I certainly miss her greatly. Because although Sarah is definitely a worthy replacement, she doesn't have the experience yet that Pamela had, but of course she will in time. One other little thing that I wanted to add was that in the weeks leading up to her death during the war, we were preparing for the visit of the New York State Licensing Board, We're actually coming to the school for a site visit in 2 weeks' time. And in preparation for that, we were producing a very, very long document because they've got certain requirements and they need from us details about the USMLE pass rate and electives and a million other details. We placed the document on Google Docs so that we could all work on it together. Both from our office and from the Columbia office, we would all be working on the same document. And probably about half of the document is actually contributions from Pamela. And so we're still working on this document. And every time I see Pamela's contribution, as I was working on it this morning, and another column came up from Pamela, and then the graphs that Pamela inserted, and the tables that Pamela inserted, it's a great reminder for me both of our professionalism and our dedication. But it's also a reminder that I've lost a close friend and colleague. And she's certainly with me every day that I work in the office. Both professionally and also emotionally, because as I say, we worked together for 6 years. We knew each other pretty well, and we knew the environment we were working in pretty well. And I think we managed to get things working pretty. It went well, and so I miss her very much. After she died, I sent an email to her husband. I'm sure that he's under a great deal of stress. I didn't get back from him, but I hope that maybe this will eventually get to him, and that he understands just how badly we were all affected by this Pamela's sudden passing. Okay, so thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Any student want to say anything, or any staff want to say anything? Just, I'll come back to the faculty now. I want to give younger people. No? Younger, older people? Okay, I'll let the older people. Meg?
I was not going to speak.
You can come back and speak after too. So.
I was not going to speak because I come from the sideline, not from the mainstream of organizing and making the school work. And Pamela definitely was pivot around whom a lot of the activities are turning. However, in the absence of people who were here in the beginning, I feel obliged to say a few words. Pamela was in the business from before day one. The concept of this school was created by Carmi Margulis and Richard Deckelbaum. Carmi drew me in, and Richard drew Pamela in. And this was the nucleus that started this school. If you know Carmi, if you know Richard, if you know me, we have crazy ideas. Pamela mopped up after us. But she was the cleaner woman. She saw to it that our ideas become reality. And I have great admiration for her abilities, for her smartness, and maybe for her positive spirit, which comes from a deep faith. A very religious woman who really had a pivot directing her in a way that's admirable. And if you know the figures of Margulis, Deckelbaum, and Alkan, you know that it's not so easy to deal with these guys. She definitely did. She did a great job in using her positive attitude, her love for people, and her dedication to this school in order to make it work. It's a great loss, and she will be missed for a long time.
Thank you, Professor Alkan. Professor Glick? Sure.
I guess I'm representing the oldest generation. When this whole project started, I must admit I was a little bit skeptical. Okay? that went out to Colombia, and it's hard to believe that somebody there would be so involved and so dedicated and so part of the project. It's unbelievable. We organized together the selection committee, the process of selection. Some of you may have seen the video of me telling people about, I don't know, in the old days they made a video of me to tell the applicants about Beersheba and the university. And I find it hard to believe that she's gone, I really do. It's hard to find a person who was so dedicated, so focused. She was so smart, and she was imaginative. When she saw an applicant come in, didn't have to interview, she already said she could smell this guy and don't waste your time on him, but she was always right. She had this instinct. Always received everybody with a smile. Her dedication to recruit students from all over the United States, and her project, her mind never rested. And it was all purely, you wouldn't think she had an ego involved. It was only devoted to the project and to the people. And, I find it hard to believe she's not here, frankly. I really do. It's hard to see that stable smile, running everything with absolute, so relaxed and simple, and you knew that all the work that went in behind what she did, looks good on the outside, looks simple, but she ran around from school to school. She knew every pre-med advisor you could find, and this was amazing to me how one person could do all that. I don't think she's replaceable.
Thank you, Professor Glick. If anyone else would like to say anything, this is your chance. Sharon.
I wasn't really into a lot, but we did show a lot of dogs and photos.
Yeah, she liked dogs.
Yeah. She used to breed Great Danes, and she also had this tiny Daphne that did something that won prizes. And we always used to brag about our dogs. And I was also surprised that with all the hectic work, sometimes she never forgot to greet all our Jewish holidays.
Yeah.
And she never forgot those. So how did she keep up with so many holidays that we have? But she always greeted us, holidays, Independence Day, you name it. She never forgot anything. Everyone was always in our mind. So that's my experience.
Thank you, Sharon. Very sweet. She did like dogs. I forgot that. So much so that we had these bi-weekly conference calls with Mike, myself, Richard Eckelbaum, Pam, and depending on various other criminals join. And we always had barking dogs in these backgrounds. So, like after the first 2 bars, I said, "Yes, Rover, sit down, or oh, do something to this dog to keep him quiet." And she liked dogs a lot. She liked people too. Anybody else? Okay, so just what was the arrangement with the candle? Can you?
So I guess you just kind of.
You want everyone at the front here?
Everybody, yeah.
Does someone bring a candle?
Yeah.
Well done. Great. So if everyone could stand.